Hello and welcome to a new jungle tutorial. My name is Virkayu, and today we're going to be looking at my Season 6 main, Kindred. Season 7 really wasn't a good year for Kindred, remaining pretty much in the gutter despite a few changes and a little mini rework, but with new runes comes new possibilities, and Kindred is now once again viable in the jungle. Along with extreme scaling, DPS, objective control, and a game-changing ultimate comes the semi-RNG mark system and a weaker early game that can be controlled if the enemy is more cohesive than that of Kindred's team. As per usual with these guides, we will look at runes, items, how to have an efficient early clear, detailed ability breakdown, the best ganking methods, and mark rotations along with how to team fight. Let's move straight into the new runes as that's where everyone's questions ultimately lie initially. That's what they want to know, what do we run on a champion? And put simply, precision is the most obvious tree for Kindred with the sustained damage and attack speed passive. Press attack as the standard marksman keystone, along with Triumph and Alacrity, give Kindred a synergistic scaling rune set to that of their abilities and mark system. The addition of Sudden Impact and Relentless Hunter give Kindred the lethality bonus from the Q jump for early game skirmishes, along with the MS scaling that they need in order to hit that very mobile and chase down potential once fed. The benefit of precision is the passive gain of 18% attack speed over the AD of domination. I find this way more useful on the early clears, plus the dueling potential should it arise, and I've gravitated to preferring this particular path over Dark Harvest, even though I main Kindred through the Warrior Ghostblade Cleaver Hurricane days when, you could just kill anyone no matter what. As a final note about runes, there are nerfs for press the attack on the PBE, there are buffs for fleet footwork. Pay mind to these changes and of course experiment to see what you think works best. You do have Dark Harvest as an option, and these precision trees as they're fleshed out over the next few weeks should change, but regardless, the precision tree is good for Kindred, and I'm sure there will be a keystone that still works well with their kit. Considering item choices, there are two distinct common paths, with precision working well using both. Warrior should be purchased every time though, as it's the most efficient item for Kindred early game and gives a really nice power spike. If you're running crit, grabbing that Shiv and IE should be the next goal, and if you're going Dark Harvest, the Ghostblade Rune Ends Cleaver build is usually your core. Adapting with more of my Mortis, Armor Pen, and GAs is also crucial, so be aware of how to adapt and learn which scenarios demand which build. But if you're able to get your core in either build, you should start noticing nice damage spikes if you have been smart with your marks. Moving on to our first clear, there are different versions of how to go about getting level 3 in time to contest the mark. One thing is certain, you don't do raptors early, the chickens are deadly. You want to start W to get wolf's damage onto the camp, and while a leash is preferred, it's not 100% necessary if you're taking the precision tree. Make sure to use your Q just before your W so you can get the free cooldown reduction on your Q, giving you more healing and damage on the camps with the machete. If you're kiting and playing smite with your camps, you should maintain a high enough HP not to have to smite, so you have that added weapon to take in order to contest your first mark. However, it is smarter to use it so you are as high as HP as possible in order to actually fight for the mark should you run into danger. If I'm on the purple side, I will usually go blue grump wolves, so that I'm guaranteed to be on one side of the map the enemy jungler probably isn't, and it's usually a free mark if it spawns that side. From there you can gank mid or simply rotate up to take your red. If I'm on the blue side, I'll usually go red, wolves, and blue, and then see where the mark is. It's highly unlikely I'll simply run halfway across the map to randomly collect it, unless I have vision on the enemy jungler and there isn't a possible gank counter gank available. The idea is to position yourself for that first mark and to be wary of strong first early junglers, so that, if you have to give it up, you have to give it up. It's really not worth dying, feeding the enemy laner if they rotate, losing other camps, and just falling way too far behind that you become useless. A lot can happen in this early game and you need to be very, very careful about how you go about it. Something like this example here. I'm able to outplay the enemy and smite the raptor, but it comes at the cost of my flash. I simply walked in being a bit risky with the Rengar. I saw his ward, which is fortunate, but it was a risky play for me. Rengar's flash was also burned and he kind of stands there stunned that I got away, but for me the cost of that mark is worth it in this case, flash for flash, and I get a scaling mark. Now let's consider Kindred's unique passive, as this affects your playstyle significantly. The marks you get are important. All abilities, save for your ult, have some sort of scaling with the marks in addition to the bonus attack range Kindred gains from these marks, the scaling of which should be shown on your screen now. To gain these marks, Kindred can kill randomly designated monster camps varying from Scuttle to Baron, while also selecting your own targets. It's worth noting that this takes 8 seconds to charge up when you do it yourself, so don't use it right before you kill an enemy as it won't proc, and don't use it too far away from your gank as they might run away thinking, oh, Kindred's coming. Instead, use it preemptively or even as misdirection. Putting it on the top laner and then ganking bot is a great example. It's something that comes with practice, but it's common to put the first mark in the enemy jungler as you're most likely to run into them when you try to go for that Scuttlecrab mark. Alright, let's take a look at the core ability for Kindred, Q, which we do max first. This ability has changed slightly over the course of Kindred's existence, but the core mechanic has remained the same. It works as a small dash that can be used over an extensive array of walls across the map, but at the same time operates as a gap closer, kite mechanic, skill shot dodger, and now an attack speed steroid that starts with a 10% attack speed bonus upon activation but scales at 5% per mark, meaning you can really get a lot of attack speed in a Fed game, which is where that objective control and dueling potential really begin to shine. When you use your Q towards an enemy, it'll fire 3 bolts towards them, one guaranteed to hit the target you're focusing on, so it can really be an immensely strong chase down tool, especially if you have a few stacks on Relentless Hunter coupled with that bonus attack speed from your marks. And getting used to this range and how the bolts fire from Q is important if you want to use it to flash finish enemies who won't expect the flash Q dash combo, which gives you more range than most, especially as you are a marksman. Q has a 9-second cooldown that does not scale, which makes the next ability extremely crucial, the W. If Q is lamb, W is wolf. Oh, I see what they did. Q's cooldown gets reduced to 4 seconds while inside the radius of W, which scales to 2 seconds as you rank it up. You can see now why we max Q first and why most people max W second. The scaling in Wolf's raw damage is percentage HP current health, 20% AD, and 1% per mark, and so coupled with the 18 to 14 second CDR scaling, this is a great ability to not only farm the jungle as it does bonus damage to monsters, but also incredibly helps you DPS as the higher W uptime you have, the higher Q uptime you have. And this can mean the difference between life and death in extended fights, or as you see here, while I'm sinking a Fire Drake, the enemy shows up but I have just enough mana for W, and that allows Wolf to do damage with my auto attacks, that by the way, also scale with 50% of Kindred's bonus attack speed. So Wolf does damage, my bot lane saves me, and because it resets my Q CDR, I'm able to hop out of the wall to safety. Having this up as much as possible is really stronger than E, which you will use most of the time once a fight on a target, as being able to move around and kite with Q as much as possible to gain attack speed, dodge skill shots, and take down fast objectives is more important. Some people, however, do like to max E, so let's take a look at that next. E is what used to be the huge problem with Kindred as a marksman, who runs into lane at level 3 with a percentage HP ability and like a 90% slow. Now, it slows by 50% for 1 second at the moment, and this is where the skill of the ability comes into play. If you commit E to a target and you attack them 2 times within 4 seconds, the third attack will cause Wolf to pounce to the target for immense damage, as long as the third attack takes place within 4 seconds of those 2 attacks. So, a lot to consider when using this ability as it scales with 0.5% of your marks and the target's missing HP, along with 80% AD and critical strike chance. This means things like IE are huge on this ability. If you are following the crit build, it makes sense to max the second logically. However, this ability is going to do damage regardless and will only increase with marks. Cooldown also decreases by 4 seconds as you max it, but you're only going to use it once per fight on one target, and while you are charging its full effect, you most likely want to be kiting around and doing as much as you can with Q and W. And W, with its copious amounts of scaling attributes, simply provides more in a fight than maxing an ability that, as you can see from these clips, decimates the enemy anyway. It's worth noting that it's also capped at 300 damage against monsters, and so you aren't using this to farm very often, and can make use of W scaling to speed up your endgame fantasy through that faster farming as well. When using this ability, ideally you want to make sure that the third attack hits when they are low enough HP, you can get an execute with the third attack, and you want to time it accordingly. Wolf will jump to the target as long as you get off that third attack, so if they save the flash too long or try and escape, he'll chase him down no matter what, and you can see with the second example that the exact same thing happens. It's also crucial that you don't waste your E-proc during your own ult, as everyone is invincible and cannot be reduced lower than 10% max HP. Be very patient while you're in your ult, and know that you have the timing and the execute from your E ready to use. Sometimes, if they are high enough HP, it's actually worth using the E to get them low enough in the ult so you can QW around them and finish them once your ult has finished channeling. This seamlessly takes us to the ult usage, and we'll talk about this more when we consider teamfighting, but in essence it makes everything, monsters included, immune to damage for a duration of 4 seconds and heals all units within, again including the monsters. The timing of this can win a fight, or it can lose a fight. You need to pay attention to if you need to let a teammate die so you can finish off the 2 enemies that are low, and decide if that's more important than saving everyone in your team, especially if they have shorter cooldowns, shields, ults, teammates coming to help them, which can be used, and this can cause a damaging momentum swing. A unique way of using the ult is to secure, protect, or steal dragons and barons. Here in this example, I get to the pit just in time, and I quickly look at my smite amount, the dragon's HP, and I hop right in. I activate my ult and prepare to smite. Now, the crucial thing to factor in here is burst damage from you and your team, because my ult will also heal up the dragon, putting it out of smite range of both junglers. I could have waited for it to be 200 HP lower before I ulted, but then the enemy could have easily secured it considering it was within my smite range. Fortunately, the Zyra and my team is aware of what to do, and together with my smite and her ult, we take the Drake right out of my ultimate. Let's get away from abilities and put it all together. How well does Kindred gank? You can use your E as an engage or chase down depending on the situation, but if you have a smart angle, simply moving with your W and Q in a good area and kiting around is enough to start the gank, and you can follow up with the E proc and cause them to burn their flash before and they die anyway. If your lane has hard to see, then all the better. Kindred thrives at coming from the sides, as the range of a marksman allows you to cut off retreats and deal damage the whole time, unlike a melee champion who would have to get within close range of the enemy, giving them a chance to dash and flash away. Enemies who push without flash are often easy pickings if you can get the right angle. As Kindred, you should always be looking in the map and keeping track of the enemy jungler as much as you can due to your mark passive, and this awareness will give you the opportunity to make picks on low targets or commit invades on unsuspecting enemies where your red smite and E can secure easy kills, as well as have opportunities to counter gank. These kind of fights only increase in effectiveness when you have your ult up. Farming efficiently while keeping up global pressure from intelligent marked target selection, as well as executing ganks, can lead you to have supreme objective control. A fed Kindred can burn through important objectives like barons and elder drakes very quickly, not to mention the control of strong early dragons at level 6. You can save a Q to hop over the back of pits and sneak in and out as you like, especially if the enemy has no vision. Let's use this to transition to late game and team fighting. If your team ever overchases or seems a bit of a mess, you can solo something like the Elder Drake in the right situation, and also really force them to burn barons because of your percentage HP and attack speed steroid. All they need to do is see the damage you do, and they usually commit to it. You can also melt crucial targets from the right angle. In the games where you aren't the most fed, your ult becomes the ultimate peeler for your ADC's ego. See this example. A perfectly placed ult allows Varus to keep doing darker things, now that we know this, and anyone outside your ultimate is subject to an unfortunate experience, and Kindred thrives in disorganized skirmishes where you can bait in enemy cooldowns or powerful spells only to block them and get out alive. We see this here in the mid lane fight. I'm able to gank the Lucian, and with a shield from Lux and Thresh, I avoid Rengar's burst, I avoid the rest of the team's burst, I get the double kill and walk out. Activating your ultimate around you or your team while the enemy is low and in danger of death is one of the most optimal occurrences, and these situations are game-winning moments. If you're low and the enemy's low and you're all suddenly just spread out and scatter, blocking final spells that could have killed your team and then killing the enemy team is what you're looking for. You also have the option of being basically an assassin. If you have been stacking your marks and have a crucial item spike, even if you don't have that many kills, you can surprise the enemy ADC or even an overhappy Singed, and these can be easy pickings for you and your team, as long as you focus objectives afterwards, of course. But because you are Kindred, you want your Q up as much as possible to take those towers with that attack speed. Essentially, time the use of your ult accordingly, and if you see a squishy target out of position, feel free to poke, flash in, and get off your burst damage, which can really force a teamfight in your favor as long as you use the ult correctly. Don't, flash into the middle of a team and think you can kill them, but I'm talking specifically if they're out of position. I hope all this information equips you to use Kindred well, and you see the potential that they have in this new season. Be wary of everything here, use your marks well in terms of how to get the neutral ones and who you target, use smart positioning by moving in and out of fights accordingly, as you don't want to be caught. You are very squishy, you are a marksman now, you're not a prototypical jungler, so auto-attacking, using your spells off cooldown. And I know this isn't even a totally exhaustive Kindred guide, but hopefully it should set you on the right track. Thank you very much for watching, mark that like button, smite the subscribe button if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next tutorial.